Hey, what's going on, everybody? Today is April Fool's Day, but that doesn't mean we're not having a show. April 1st, you're listening and watching the Daily AI Show live. And today we are talking about the AI race to instant results. So before we get into that, let's talk about who we have here today. We have Jyunmi. Robert is back with us. We're excited to see him. Andy, Beth, and I'm Brian. And I think that's probably who we have today. I think Carl's guy, we were just saying has a holiday day up there in Canada. And Aaron, I believe, is out today as well. So, all right, first day of April, Q2. I'm excited about it. I work in sales, so like there's always like a refresh of everybody when it's in sales. It's like, all right, it's no longer Q1. That's over. Go into Q2. So it's like this sort of restart today as people get going. But on this topic, what I was hoping we could talk about is we've seen over the last really few months, once we got past the wave of, in 2023 of, oh my God, you can text something and it can create an image. And we're like, I don't care how long Midjourney takes to do that. It could take 10 minutes. It's still cool as hell. Right. And then you start to get really used to that. And you're like, well, I don't know if I want to wait 10 minutes for this brand new image that I didn't have to create myself. That seems long, and like, how can we get it faster? How we can get faster? And now there seems to be this just full on sprint, this race, hence my picture here, because this is what it makes me think of. It's just a sort of full on sprint towards, faster results. And we're seeing it now with, I think, some really cool tools. And I don't know, there's been some recent ones in music, recent ones in video, and definitely in image where I think we're used to seeing it more often, that I thought would be cool to talk about today. So that's sort of where my brain was coming into this. But what have you guys seen? Is there any like tools that are sticking out to you to like, holy crap, that's fast? Whereas maybe, in the past it was taking a minute or something like that,
Well, the holy grail of that is to have real-time video editing. Like you're watching the video and you type in something and it changes as you're watching it, right?
Right.
That's really fast.
And that's, that's what, how many months away are we from that, Andy? What do you think? A year?
I've actually seen demonstrations of that sort of thing. Hackers basically putting together systems where they're manipulating an image in real time. But those are experiments. I would say we're probably a year away at least from
and I think
commercial application for that.
Also, in the compute power necessary to do that in real time is not accessible by everybody. So it's like, it might be doable, but whether it be accessible or cost effective is the other thing. I think
I found this real quick. I found this YouTube channel called Theoretically Media, and I won't play it. It doesn't matter. But like this little video that you can see on the screen, he's talking about, it was a 2-second video. So I'm like not saying this is like some movie or feature length or anything, but he created it in 7.5 seconds. Even that is really, really fast compared to where we were a year ago. Go ahead. Sorry, Robert.
Well, no, going back to your original question, real time. So I think that we're months away, not years away, from the audio being able to be responsive enough. Like when you're talking to, like I was playing with Hume.ai this morning, if you all heard about Hume, and it has some problems, but it's almost instant. Like when you were talking, it's back and forth. Just like the OpenAI's voice assistant, like if you use the app on the phone and it's ChatGPT, and you can talk almost real time, and the responses are almost fast enough to be used for conversational and chat assistance and those kind of use cases. So I think that's we're almost there. So now we're talking about instant results, maybe in the next level, which means extrapolating from your questions. It has to do some calculations, which again, we're months away from that.
Which Hume does in a really interesting way, because Hume adds filler, right? Hume is like doing some analysis on how you feel, but Hume is sort of doing, well, that's a really interesting thing. And now I'm going to ask you a question. And because it's sort of overemphasizing the way that it is emotionally speaking, you can hear the transition between like, I have expressed understanding and empathy with your thing. And now I have a very exciting question, right? Like,
I didn't know it did that. That's actually pretty funny. It kind of stalls a little bit in order to get to the answer.
Just like humans do, right? Just like
humans do that with filler words and and phrases that end nowhere, and then they switch over to where they really wanted to go.
Phrases that end nowhere.
And
That's going to be on my
Maybe
tombstone.
you, Andy.
Phrases that end nowhere.
I think my main takeaway of just this theme in general is both in video and audio is the strive to get it's the theme of the show. Instant reaction is for that communication, that flow, that even flow of communication back and forth, right? So we've seen the latest the latest methods to help us generate images at like essentially 16 images a second and things like that. And so if you think that film is at 24 and video is at 30 frames a second, and that's what most of our motion content is, we're just right there on the cusp of being able to generate all of that video in real time. And I think that's the key term is real time. You lower the latency. If you lower the latency of voice translation, the new voice engine tech that OpenAI talked about a couple days ago, about able to do live translations with accents, so you can keep your accent, but so it is your recorded voice. So if you take yourself as an example, you can record your voice and you can have it speaking another language in your accent. And so what they're talking about is your accent is your natural inflections. So it sounds more like you while it's being translated to give a more visceral experience. So you combine those kinds of innovations with being able to create video on the fly based upon your input. I think we're going to see a real big change in creative.
And honestly, Jyunmi, that's where my brain is kind of stumped. I obviously I'm not smart enough for this, but I feel like the technologies at this first point in a while has gone faster than the creative's ability to actually do something with it. Like if it gets to a point where all that stuff is happening, I can't visualize use cases that hit a brick wall, right? I'm constantly impressed by what is capable, what's going to be capable, but I don't know how they're going to use that. So I guess to take this whole conversation to the next step, race instant results. How is that going to manifest, and how do we get to push the bounds of even that? Like,
sure. I can give you a couple examples. So this is what I'm imagining. Sort of like what Andy said is the whole video editing process, right? We all know that takes a long time trying to get the right, the right workflow on that. Now, some easy wins, I think, applying this kind of tech in the video space would be to, number one, we're already seeing edits made by text, right? Where we can cut out things and they'll do certain cuts and things like that. But I see a big potential for fixing, right? For example, I had to edit one of our own videos because it would cut back and forth between some mistakes we made in live stream. And so I spent a lot of time just trying to make the audio blend well and getting a good timing on our cutaways and things like that. But with generative image AI, we have the potential to tell or have us as a preset say, hey, blend these two so we don't have to have a jump cut, right? These two are where this cut is, there's only like half a second or even less than half a second, right? And you can tell when it's a jump cut and you're like in this position and then suddenly you're on that position.
Yeah.
But generative AI we can say
blend the difference.
And then it'll, because of the way the models work, it can figure out everything that needs to be done there and just generate what it needs to fill in that jump cut.
I would love that.
We can have a full smooth edit. Same with audio. We can heal the audio, so to speak. And so if I have to cut here and you start high, you end low and start high, right? You can say heal that. And so there's a nice, even progression there. And so that's
an awesome use case.
yeah. And if that could just be a one-click thing, that would save so much time in an editor's life.
That's not instant results. That's just text to model interpolation. Like I want to be able to talk to Adobe Premiere and say, take these 2 videos and this audio and make a YouTube video out of it. And that's, but
I think that's totally possible. It's probably a little further down the line.
Right.
My example is probably what you're going to see first. It's just like little fixes like that. But yes, and this does kind of go to one of your early statements, Robert, about the build this movie for me.
Yeah,
right? That level of tech, right? That's what we're going to see eventually down the line, or some example of that. But for the creative tools that exist right now, yes, I could say, I think what we'll see a lot of, and I think what's proven this out to be a useful use case is things like Canva, right? 80% of what people will use a tool or a current tool nowadays is what can be done by Canva or Adobe Express, right? It's like, oh, we need to resize this. We need to change that. We need to cut out that background, and there's a lot of new generative AI tools that those programs have integrated so that becomes easier. So I think the thing that we're going to see is where you can fully communicate with your edit, and you'll have all of these presets. Like, this is a podcast with 7 people. Fix its color, fix its audio, make it sound as good as possible, make it look as good as possible, or based on these parameters, go click, pass through, and it just fills in all the gaps and does all the extra steps.
And oftentimes, like we do in when I do ghostwriting, I'm usually building it off of other samples. So for instance, if you have a certain style or tone for your podcast and you want it to sound like a Lex Friedman podcast, so you want it to sound like something, and you just like the way it sounds, the pacing of it or whatever, you probably could also import examples and have it automatically flush right through your podcast to match the style and tone of others, or just previous, like you were saying, Jyunmi, consistency. We're pretty consistent on this show as far as our style and tone, but like you said, audio levels different, different people come in with different mics, different backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. So just to be able to say, hey, here's 5 samples of what we do in AI all the time, Fusion. Here's 5 examples of it, the best I think it sounds. Now make sure everything going forward also uses that, which is really no different than using a Fusion example.
So what we're talking about right now are a lot of things that take a lot of compute time. And many of the things that we're imagining happening because of accelerations in compute performance in AI, happening in a very, very short period of time and almost in real time. There's a race underway, and I think the topic of today's show is about what's happening in that arms race to accelerate model and compute and cloud delivery performance of AI applications. Now, one of the things that can solve that, the problems that are created by cloud infrastructure latency is just putting it down onto the device, like tuning a model and putting it locally so that you don't have to worry about cloud, network topology problems that are causing, collisions, and, you have to wait because there's thousands of people using it at the same time. Instead, if you have it on your own device, that's really, really good. And
so can we talk about that, Andy? Like, what are the bottlenecks and barriers to make that happen? So going back to the AI race to instant results, what is the next frontier to make it instant results, and what's keeping that from happening?
Well, I think there's 3 big areas where this is happening. So first of all, is cloud infrastructure, and Microsoft and Meta are both planning major changes to their provisioning of cloud infrastructure. So you got to know that Amazon Web Services is as well, in order to optimize for AI type workloads. So there's all kinds of things that can be done there that are way beyond my operational experience. But the people who do network ops are working on changing their infrastructure in their data centers and their network arrangements, like, content delivery networks, to optimize for AI. There's a related thing called edge computing, which is moving the processors to the nearer to where the application is being delivered. And there's some really interesting advances that are happening in edge computing, where shrinking a model down to the size where it can be placed on a chip, right, and putting the chip into like a cell tower might make it possible to remove some of that sort of the collisions that happen when you're trying to work with a central data center. Instead, you're actually working with something that's much more local and it's running off a chip. So that's on infrastructure, the infrastructure side. We've talked on the show about model merges, which like refine a model down to a much smaller size, but while retaining the capabilities of larger models that had been trained for the merge. So now you get smaller models, and the smaller model just simply means it's going to be faster, because you don't have to flow the token delivery of the query at inference time through a very large model. It's going through a much smaller model, and so it's going to have much faster performance. So those are the two areas. Then the third one is at the chip level. So we've seen Grok, the special combination of a large language model and a chip, which they call, I think, the language processing unit, which is dramatically faster than what you can get with NVIDIA GPU and one of the cloud-based large models. So you see, you kind of get this picture of the chips getting better, the network arrangement to support AI computing is it being improved, and then the models are being refined and customized for specific applications, all the way down to the point where I'll give you an example. Just this weekend, I'd come across an old hard drive, and it had a bunch of photos that I hadn't seen in a long time. So I was really doing the nostalgia trip. And I wanted to enhance some of those some of those images, right? Because they were done way back when, digital cameras were poor, or they were done from, snap cameras or whatever. And so I was looking online for different ones. Well, almost all the image photo restorers / image enhancers, they take a long time to produce the enhanced image. You upload the file, it's almost instantaneous, and then you say, okay, process. And then it's about a minute, like 30 seconds to a minute to add some detail to that thing. Now, you can buy an AI that's been designed to run on your computer. And there, it's not going to wait, but while it goes up to the cloud and goes in through their servers and so on, it's just going to run on your computer. So I'm teasing myself with the idea of buying one of those, but I'm nervous because I don't know whether that's, like if I'm going to buy one as a piece of software for my computer, I'm not sure I've got the best, latest, greatest AI that's going in there, or just somebody else's code that does some enhancement routine.
You can try Gigapixel for free. So go to Topaz, download it, see if it works for you.
It's true.
I want to say a couple things. One is that it's not just hackers who are doing instant image. If you go to Krea AI, KREA AI, you'll be able to do the instant picture based on your prompt or based on what you're drawing, I believe. And the second thing is we've talked about running it locally, but we're going to see in June Apple's version of Siri, which is AI running on the device. And so we'll see, at least that's according to the rumors, and the rumors are likely to be accurate in this context. And so I think part of what we're getting as we're getting smaller and smaller, or getting faster and faster, is now we can carry them with us. I'm also wondering if this is like, if this is going to be like the third running show in a row that Jyunmi's going to mention. Please have Raspberry Pi as a device that I can run all my stuff with. So I think that those are really important. But I also want to say Grok has like this giant reputation of being like super fast, and it shows you how fast it is. It gives you the little stats. Experientially, it does not feel dramatically faster than Perplexity to me. It feels and like I cannot with ChatGPT's timing at this point in time. Like I am not sure. I'm just super spoiled at this point. Like I'll go make coffee. You think about it and give me one word at a time. For
look, we give Gemini a lot of crap, but Gemini is very fast. Gemini Advanced is very fast. Yeah, like it's and accurate, I would say, in a lot of cases. And I know we kind of dog on Google a little bit, but Gemini Advanced is also like it's up there. And then when you go back to ChatGPT, if you bounce around enough, you can definitely see the difference between what ChatGPT is. But interesting, we should make the distinction. If I use GPT-4 in the playground, it's damn near instantaneous.
True.
It's ChatGPT and the interface, and probably how many people are using that simpler, easier interface. But if I use the model GPT-4 and I run it through the playground with no bells and whistles, it's immediate. And it's been like that, if you think about it, Beth, for well over a year. Like the playground really never hiccuped,
And that's how we're running Grok, right? Like we're interfacing with Grok in the playground as well.
Exactly. I did want to share like one or two things really quick that I thought were cool. One in images, one in audio, just to talk about two different places where we're seeing a lot of speed here. So we sort of hinted around this, but I want to share something that just came out in the news. Like 3 days ago, maybe a little 4, maybe it was at the end of last week. So I'll just show this really quick. This is distribution matching distillation, also known as DMD, which sounds really cool. And this came out of some MIT researchers. No shock there. And it's kind of covered at the bottom of my screen here, but I'll just tell you, it says Stable Diffusion version 1.5 is averaging 1.4 seconds per image. And then it says RDMD, and it's covered there, but it's a half a second per image. And if I just let this run really quick, you'll see the difference. On the left of the screen, even if you're not watching this, it's showing you Stable Diffusion creating 4 images. And on the right of the screen, it's going to show you what DMD does. So
this innovation paves the way for...
So before Stable Diffusion could create 4 images, DMD created 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 by 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. So fast math on there, 42. 42 images before Stable Diffusion could do 3 images. I mean, that's crazy. So that's just in the last couple of days. That's why I'm talking about like this. Funny enough, this came out after it already decided to do this show. And sometimes that just happens with AI, where something just lands in our lap and we're like, oh, that's exactly what we want to talk about. And this is one of those things from MIT. So we'll have to see, back to what you were saying about Andy, about the models getting smarter. And there's a whole bunch of research you can do about distribution matching distillation. If you really want to dig into details and what is that? Why is it different than regular diffusion? And all the other things that go into images. So that's one of them.
I feel like this is a rabbit and hare. What is it called? Rabbit and turtle and hare kind of situation where speed in some instances, because we want quality, and we want not just quality, we want it to be actually what I want. So the speed at which it can respond with a proper image based on what I'm telling you. So I find Midjourney is difficult at trying for me to get what I want out of it. It's like, it doesn't do what I want. It's really good quality. It's super realistic looking, and it's fast to some degree. That was fast. All those images are fast, but to what end? Why would that be helpful? I mean, I know that wasn't your point, but I'm just trying to think through the idea of instant isn't always the end goal. It's instant and quality, right?
Especially to your point, Robert, if you want consistent characters, like I just used that, and I think it was a bunch of parrots or birds or whatever. But let's say you were creating a story and consistency of characters was more important to you, that they all didn't look different, that the bird looked like the bird every single time. Who cares how fast it is if they're 42 different birds? You're like, that's zero help to me whatsoever. So I think you have a really valid point. Like, it depends on what your end goal is. Do I need a really quick image or don't? So this is Loudly. This is one. Suno, I think, is another one of the audio ones, and there's other music ones as well. Now I shared the tab on here, so we should be able to hear the audio. So this is not instant, but it's progressing that way, where you can now create net new songs, 30 seconds plus, and you can adjust Loudly, you could adjust just about every different piece and part, from the instruments to the key to the tempo to merging two different types of music. And I think the way I looked at music is I was kind of like, meh, like the AI stuff. I wasn't really just like, I was like, it's fine. It does what it needs to do. I will tell you, I would actually listen to this song. I'm just going to play it. I'm not going to play the whole thing, obviously. It's just called Easy. Somebody created it. It actually has vocals. To the best of my knowledge, those vocals were probably added after. I don't know that Loudly will create AI vocals. If it does, this is, to me, exponentially even more impressive. So I'll just play a little bit.
It has an option for vocal.
It does, but I wonder if it created it with that. Can you guys hear that? Were you able to hear that sound?
Yes.
Real quick?
Good.
Okay.
That is chill. I like it.
They're live to it, right? And then look, what's really impressive right here too.
Walking away, getting close to
That's a long song. That's 3 minutes and 38 seconds too.
Okay. All right. So I think that this is, I think one of the reasons that we feel like this is interesting and good is because the processing of pop vocals has moved toward a mechanical sound in some ways.
Yep.
Like I think if you and I have actually tried this, I think if you tried for a Hawaiian ukulele strum and a vocal, you can totally notice like, oh God, no, this sounds like a robot strumming.
Tiny bubbles.
My personal experience with that has been poor. It is like Suno, just it's terrible.
If you did acoustic, if you did acoustic, singer songwriter, you're saying it won't be as good as maybe a techno pop kind of chill.
So the other piece about that is that it is made for people who don't make music, right? So that you can make a song. My frustration with all of those is like, no, I want a crescendo at like minute 1.
Yeah.
And that kind of fine-tuned control is not.
I will push back a little bit on that, Beth, and just say like, I don't know what it took to make that song easy, right? I don't know how long that took or whatever. As far as my impression is that takes talent above and beyond the AI. I think if I went into Loudly right now and tried to recreate that, I would actually have trouble doing it, which is a good, going back to what we always say is like, you still need industry expertise. I'm imagining somebody has to have some decent understanding of music and whatever to do this.
So I'm going to say music production, it helps, but it's not in a composition kind of way. Right? Like you can't get in and fine tune those individual pieces. We have not mentioned, and I feel like we should, in terms of device, OpenAI and Microsoft announced that they are creating a computer designed to run AI called Stargate, set to launch in 2028. So don't hold your breath, but like again, sort of moving on the device piece.
Similarly, Microsoft has their own inference accelerating chip called Maya, MAIA. It's just better for model training and inference compared to general purpose GPUs that you would get from NVIDIA, for example. And Meta also has their own inference accelerating chip, which is being designed to do things that are quite specific to what the application set is for Meta's AI, including recommendation models. So they have a special chip called MTIA for Meta Training and Inference Accelerator. So that's on the chip side.
I think going back to
doing their own too. I mean, they're planning on making their own. They basically they're tired of NVIDIA kind of holding them to the fire. Whereas information article said NVIDIA is in the position of kingmaker. They can basically say, well, you get 20,000 chips, you get 2,000 chips,
And to speak to the infrastructure update, just heard a story from a couple of days ago that this UK professor in his home lab created a method to up your bandwidth to
that
like 300
I don't believe it.
million
Yeah.
megabytes a second.
like so the faster than the speed of
Using
light. Okay.
existing infrastructure, fiber optic. But this is also April 1st, so I don't know.
Right. Yeah.
But that reminded me that University of Pennsylvania has a silicon photonics chip in development. Photonics meaning it's like optical fibers inside the chip rather than electric circuits. So it's a light-based chip, which is faster. Like electrons don't apparently move as fast as light does. Light collectively gets through the chip faster. So there's another chip development that could dramatically increase the compute speed for all of us in AI.
To Robert's tortoise and hare point, the faster the result is, the less you are putting in an experimental phase, right? Like this, because I did like a mega prompt kind of thing. I want you to do these steps, and I got the first step wrong, but it's like June. It's just like it's done a whole ton of stuff.
Yes.
So. And you can't, like on ChatGPT, it's only got through the first sentence. You can stop it. And so that kind of piece, I think, is gonna require, or like you just generate a ton of nonsense, but is going to require a little bit more piece by piece experimentation so that you can build something that works. But that experimentation itself is going to take so much less time.
I'm sorry, but I want to end on a song because since we're talking about music and since our lovely viewer is making a request, so I think this would be kind of fun. Make a song for a Sunday study session. This is Suno version 3 that was released the last 7 days ago. That's better than the loudly. I'm already called. And this is not, I'm just worried that these are pretty darn good. Or if you want a song with deep departed goldfish.
Into my tank. I couldn't believe it, my heart.
I'm sorry, that Suno's good.
Suno is good.
Yeah.
But again, the reason we think that's a good vocal is because that's how people's vocals are processed to sound.
Because it's it's what's that tool that
auto tune
that the Swiftie the Taylor Swift got in trouble 4 years ago. Anyway, yeah, auto tune. All right. On that note, Jyunmi.
On that note, Jyunmi, take us out. We'll wrap it up here. Jen asked for more music shows, please. Yeah, absolutely. I love. I'm such a music fan in life that I'll talk about. You can see the guitars over there. Guitars in the background around the room and stuff. I'll talk about music all day. There's really some cool stuff coming out with it. I'm interested to see as it gets even faster and faster. So, look, we'll come back to this topic because really, there's no way we can't, right? I mean, things are speeding up. We're getting faster results. I think, Robert, you have a great point about when is it valuable and when is it not? And I think there's great use cases for both. Jyunmi was given a bunch for Adobe. I can see ones in marketing where you're getting near instantaneous, highly personalized ads on Facebook. In other words, if I had just gone to the Grand Canyon and now I'm getting ads from Delta Airlines, they may have an ad in my feed that's 100% Grand Canyon and merged together. And that will be happening instantaneously on there. And nobody else on this show would have the exact same ad as me because it's building it off of my social media feed. 1,000% that's coming. So I think that's coming. So, a lot of different ways this could be used. Tomorrow, we're talking about what you could be doing as a business to prepare for GPT-5 and beyond. This came out of our previous discussion. I think Anne brought it up and we said, yeah, you know what? That would be a great discussion. So what can you do as your business? It's Q2 2024. GPT-5 is coming out probably sometime this year. What can you do about it? We're going to talk about that tomorrow. Wednesday, we'll talk about
early next year, they say.
Thursday, we have a fun show talking about, we're going to pick up another conversation about movies, which movies in the past got it right about AI. I'm sure Jyunmi will have a lot to share on that one. I'm looking forward to it. And then Friday, we'll have our 2-week recap show. Hey, what did we just say about AI? And maybe we'll talk more about this again on that show. Those are always fun. That's it. Keep coming back all week. And thanks for hanging out with us on April Fool's Day. Thank you, Jen, for all your lovely comments. We always appreciate it. Do not come from Taylor Swift. Uh-oh. Battle's been drawn. Line's been drawn. Robert. We can't lose Jen. Don't say anything bad about you. All right. That's it. See you guys. Bye.
I love that.